All right, Luke, what is up, my man? Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Going real good, man. Lots going on, but glad to be here.
We could just jump right into it, man. We were talking a few weeks ago, and you had a ton going on then to end the year, and you have a lot of units, so we could just jump right in. I'd love to talk some ops. Just for context, though, could you give the audience a quick background on just what your business and portfolio looks like today? Unit number, students. I know you do coaching as well, but just kind of the full spectrum.
Yeah, I'll give you the 30,000 foot view. And just before we started all this, I was a police officer in Wilmington, North Carolina for almost 4 years, but quickly dumped into Airbnb arbitrage to start actually. Scaled that to 30 units our first year. Quickly found that, hey, co-hosting or kind of the partnership model might be a little bit easier. So kind of transition our portfolio to that. Right now we're floating around 60, 61 units in total with I think 5 of those being arbitrage that are left. The rest are co-hosts. That's kind of our main business. Between that, there's me on the sales side. My wife does onboarding. We have a manager named Kelsey and then 3 VAs. That's kind of our main hub where we kind of keep the doors open. I have like a side project that I'm running now. We're calling it Co-host Connect, where we're essentially trying to find co-host homeowners or they homeowners that need good co-host. And then we're kind of taking that fee in the middle. So that was a big success to start, but obviously it's really hard to find quality leads, right? So we need to find a way to do that at scale before we kind of really blow it up. And then lastly, I still coach for a company called B&B Formula. Not sure if you've heard of it, but it's going well. They are doing some transitionary things, so I'm not sure how long I'll stay there or what their next forward momentum is, but that's kind of me in a nutshell right now.
Sweet. Sounds great. So the thing that I remember thinking when we first spoke was you do things quickly. Like you scale quickly, you onboard people quickly, you launch things quickly. Whereas most people, they think about what they're going to do and their plan for months, if not years, and then never even do the thing. So could you maybe just talk to what, I guess, like the beginnings were of some of these ventures, whichever, if you want to talk about arbitrage, the co-hosting business, or the coaching, whatever jumps out at you first, or is, I don't know, what you think might be the most interesting, but you just get into stuff quickly and scale quickly, like 30 arbitrage units in a year, 61 co-host units, like that is a lot quickly. So if you could just maybe talk about one of them and how you started and just kind of how it got rolling, your mindset, all that.
Yeah, I'll kind of give the framework. I'm a firm believer of like, it's probably not an information problem, it's an execution problem. I think that's most people's problem, if you will. So with that said, I've always known like I'll know the North Star and I'll just kind of run towards that rather than needing every duck in a row, if that makes sense. So while I've gotten a course, I've gotten some coaching, things like that on the side, it's like, you tell me do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, all right, pause there. Let me just run that way, see how it works. I'll kind of trip and fall on my own. But if it works, great. So, which is why it started for arbitrage. Initially, I was like, okay, I had a couple long-term rentals, but I needed some extra cash. Oh, you there? Wonder if we're still going.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just drop for a second. Keep rolling, yeah.
Yeah. So for the arbitrage, I was like, okay, it's an easier way to get into units that can make more cash flow because I think everyone's problem is I just don't have cash to get involved in real estate, right? That's the biggest issue. So I quickly realized, okay, let me sell one of my long-term rentals and get 5 or 10 of these short terms for arbitrage. And while the cash flow is good, it's so funny. I was working as a cop and during the summertime, that's where we make all our money, right? So I was making 12, 15K a month, like just dog. I was like, dude, I'm buying everyone's lunches. I'm doing our thing, right? And then September comes and boom, the hammer drops, market dies off. And I'm like, oh God, like, and I had quit my job. Like I was put in my 2 weeks and like income just tanks. And I was like, oh God. So now I probably fires under me to get more units because I have to be able to stack it up. So I think that the fear of failure definitely kept me going. And we're at the point now where it's like, hey, you got to be encouraged for the future, right? I don't really have a sense of this urgency that I think a lot of people start with, which is, I think, a big transitionary period for most people where they need to be motivated by different things. But yeah, after that, I kind of said scaling co-hosting is probably the easiest way to make that happen just because you don't need any money up front. I've been talking to people my whole life as a police officer, all you do is talk to crackheads and crazy people like that. So I was like, if I can talk to a few of these cats, like I can talk to a little homeowner. It's not that bad, right? So did that, and they just started landing. And once you hit probably, I don't know, 10 to 15, people start calling you. You start posting a little bit, networking with enough people. It starts to make a lot of sense. So it definitely changed their life, and happy to employ a few other people and meeting cats like you.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's about it.
I love it. So, how different is the strategy now for getting co-host clients than when you first started? It sounds like you might be getting repeat business or phone ringing, but like how? Yeah, if you want to talk about your current marketing strategy versus maybe what it was when you first got rolling, sometimes that's interesting. But however you want to go with it.
Yeah. So initially it was just referral. Like we didn't think co-hosting was very profitable. We're like, okay, but we had enough people coming to us saying, hey, let's call it 1 to 2 a month that were like, hey, can you manage my property? We did it. I was like, okay, this is easy enough. We had VAs that I wasn't really feeling the day-to-day operations. So I was like, okay, I could probably keep stacking those on. So for me to put gas on the fire, I'm kind of using a Facebook strategy where I will go into, let's call it the top 5 to 10 Facebook groups of markets I'm either in or want to be involved in. So let's call it some Florida markets, Texas, Arizona, you name it. And I just start posting in there with anyone that's complaining remotely about occupancy, revenue, their Airbnb, or maybe they just have a cool, interesting post. I would comment, like it, follow them, then shoot them a DM. So I'm like, all right, this guy pretty much pinged me 4 times. Who is this guy? And just to be able to give some value up front, I'd say, hey, can you shoot me your listing? And they'd shoot me their listing. And I'd say, hey, I found 10 things on your listing that could use improvement. Are you open to a 15-minute phone call? So now it's not me hard selling them on co-hosting. It's like, hey, let me just give you some value. If you find it interesting and useful, we could talk about me co-hosting, which normally that's how it played out. Towards the end of the conversation, I say, hey, I can give all this to you for free, but if you don't have time, which it sounds like you don't, I'm happy to manage for 20%. And then you'd be shocked. 90% of people are like, all right, you sound educated on it. You know what you're talking about. You have other units. Like, it just makes sense for you to manage because a lot of these people are just overrun with day-to-day operations or they're not making enough money. And as long as I could ping on those two of either making more money or saving them time, that was typically the best angle I could play. So once I cracked that, there was 3 months there where I was doing roughly 10 a month. So I did 35 in 3 months. I closed 35 separate units. Of those units, there was probably, I don't know, 8 different landlords. A lot of them had 5 properties or 7 properties, so it made it much easier because I would rather go after one person with 10 units than one person with 1 unit, right? So sure. That was a big kind of cracking of the code, but it was really just following up on Facebook. That I call it Facebook method, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But expanding the network, commenting, posting, and then giving free value up front, that kind of really unlocked a lot of success for us. Yeah, go for
Should be good now.
it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. So I want to talk a little bit about current operations. You mentioned your wife does onboarding. You have 3 VAs. So could you just talk to like who does what in the business at a little bit more granular level, and then what you see as like your role in the business in the co-hosting side?
Sure. So, and that's our main gig is co-hosting. So in summary, you have me as the sales. So I'll do the initial interaction. I'm on Facebook. I'm leading team meetings, networking events, stuff like that. I then pass and say, hey, my wife, Beth, will be the main point of contact for your onboard. We have a full onboarding sheet for that. So she's anything, making the listing, getting in contact with designers, getting a home information sheet filled out, getting video walkthroughs, stuff like that. And a lot of these properties are remote. So she's connecting with people in those other states or cities that need to get that done. Once she's done, that process takes about, I don't know, 2 weeks to maybe 4 weeks, depending upon if they need items shipped to the house or if it needs a design refresh. Then we say, hey, Kelsey will be your main point of contact. She is our head ops manager there. She oversees the 3 VAs. So Kelsey's kind of the godsend. She's been with us from almost day one. We're actually, it's funny, we might be even adding another ops manager just because she just takes on so much work and she does a lot of great stuff for us. And then you kind of have the 3 VAs, which, yes, you could say guest support, but that's messaging, maintenance, cleaning, and then ordering items. We're still kind of in limbo with the pricing. I still currently do that just because to me that's like the oxygen of the business, and I don't want to hand that up just yet. But I think that's coming very shortly. And then what else we got? We have some potentially contractors or support people around us in each market. We might build a list of like, let's call them Uber drivers or Lyft drivers that if we need them as drop-off people, we post in a group chat of 10 people, hey, who was able to drop this item off? And it's $50. And you'd be shocked, dude. They're all about it just because they're used to making a couple bucks on Uber, right? And if you throw them $50 to do a drop-off or something like that, they're all about it.
These are actually people that drive for Uber or Lyft.
Think about it. They're driving around all day, so they have time. They're available.
Dude, that's a great tip. I've never heard anyone say this before. 300 podcast episodes. Never heard anyone say that.
It's been the biggest cheat code. Like if you need items built out, dropped off, maybe even small things fixed. Obviously, you don't want to do any real maintenance, but if it's like, I don't know, change a light bulb, something simple, they can totally do it. And it's like a bidding war because you say, hey, first come, first serve, $50, and it's at this location. First person to respond gets it. And then you shoot them a text right after directly to give them more information. And you just shoot them either a Venmo or Zelle or whatnot. And they're all about it. They're the most motivated people you've ever seen.
I have a follow-up question on something else, but just to close that out, did you find these people just like when you ride Uber yourself, you just get contact info, or how do you find these people?
It's funny. We had at the time a different ops manager or like a runner that was doing it for us, but we were paying this runner full time, like over $3,000 a month because we have 30 or 40 properties just in the Wilmington area. So it made sense to have someone constantly restocking items. But then we're like, why are we paying someone $3,500 a month when we could just have Uber drivers dropping them off and have the cleaners go put them in the owner's closet, stuff like that. So,
such a good tip.
Because we were doing, 30 drop-offs a month between all the properties, if not more. So it still made sense at $20 to $50 a drop-off to just do it that way.
That's cool.
But yeah, how we collected them, I think was just Facebook. I think there's like Uber little forums and stuff like that, and you make a couple posts, and it's pretty hype.
I love it. And yeah, if people in your network or people that know Uber drivers or take Uber, let's say, hey, just get the guy's contact info or whatever. Like that wouldn't be hard to find, but such a good example there. Really, that's amazing. Just want to clarify, Kelsey is your ops manager. Your wife is, what's her name? She's someone else. I know you mentioned her. But
Yeah, Beth. Yeah.
Beth. Okay. So Kelsey manages the VAs, and your wife Beth manages Kelsey, or do you manage Kelsey? Or both?
It's kind of both. We do like a team meeting with all three of us because we all need to talk to each other, go over issues, stuff like that, which is another thing we're going over this week is how we want to structure our meetings and how we want to track certain KPIs and what kind of goal setting and how much of a relationship we need with our VAs compared to just Kelsey handling it on the side.
Oh, man. I'm going to make a note. I want to talk about that later on. We're doing the same stuff right now. Before we do, though, I'm just curious. I feel like you've had a good track record with finding clients, but also finding internal people outside of the Uber and Lyft drivers. How did you find Kelsey, and how would you go about finding another ops manager if you were going to find and hire another Kelsey?
Great question, because we obviously there's very different answers. Kelsey, we got just super lucky with. She was it's called ex-roommate of my wife's. She's a little bit younger. She worked at like a front desk at like a Wilmington Health, like a medical facility. And then she went to remote, and she's like, hey, I have some free time. I'm just sitting at my desk. I could probably answer some messages for you. So it started like a part-time. As we scale, we're like, hey, you should quit your job and come with us. So I know not everyone has that luxury, but if I had to do it again, which we are doing, where we have an ad out there, I quickly found out that Indeed, while like popular, is still very effective. We paid, I think, a few $100, but we got 400 applicants within 3 days.
Wow.
Like for an option, and all we put was $30K to $50K. So like even the revenue, I was like, all right, I probably was thinking we get like 10 or 15 people, some soccer mom or whatever, but dude, 400 applicants.
Wow.
So we don't even have time to go through them all, but the play that we ran was, all right, first 100, Beth and I were just chipping through them, see their experience, see their resume, stuff like that. And then when anyone that we said was remotely hey, they might have potential, we say, hey, send us a 3 to 5 minute video answering these 3 to 5 questions.
Yep.
And that way you get to know their communication style, get to know them, because we don't have time to interview 400 people, but we're trying to narrow that list of 50 videos down to maybe 10 people we actually want to interview. And then we'll go that route. But to me, I think the easiest way is inner circle of recommendations. If you already have an ops manager or someone else, like, hey, do you recommend anybody? Then I'd go to Indeed, then maybe posting it in a Facebook group or forum, just because there's a lot of people talking in those. But yeah, I was just very surprised with Indeed. So that'd probably be my number one guess or point.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then for the VAs, and this is the stuff that I feel like isn't talked about that much, but love talking about it on the show, of just like the operations and management of people and like systems, even like meeting structure. So something that I've personally, I'll say, struggled with or just tinkered with so much and talked to other people on the show is like, you have 61 properties, 3 VAs, is how you chose or choose to do schedules with the VAs and who does what. If it's, you know, one VA is responsible for 20 units and you have, 3 VAs, so 60 units, or is it they work in shifts covering all the units? How maybe have you done it in the past, and why do you do it the way you do now?
Great question. And we're kind of switching this up now, and I'm glad you brought this up. But to me, there's a big difference between project-based VAs and then let's call them guest support. If you have someone doing messaging, but also trying to do a project, they're going to get too tugged around. It just isn't efficient. You're going to be like, hey, they're super slow. Why aren't they filling things out? So I think keep those separate and have a more of a project VA for maybe your nighttime. You're over your twilight shift, because messages are very slow, but they can be working on a project. Or have a VA that only does, let's call it your pricing, helps with onboarding, helps with back office support. So separate that. We have 3 VAs and 2 of them are working at any one time. Obviously evening or morning shift and evening shift. So we don't have full 24/7 coverage. But we're probably going to add at least one more VA to potentially do maybe our marketing or revenue management and more project-based stuff. We're at the size now where we could probably facilitate another VA, but right now it's 8-hour shifts. And then at the end of each shift, where we kind of had some struggles was maybe the contractor was going to come at 6, but they get off at 4. How do you communicate that next transition, right? So obviously we're using Slack for our communication, but we even went one step further and we forced them to give us an end of day report before they check off. So every 15 minutes, they need to jot down what they're doing. Because that's another big thing I hear about VAs. They're like, well, he's supposed to be working for 8 hours. Like, what is he doing? Did he just answer 6 messages? Or like, is he training? Is he looking at other things? So we make them do that. Obviously with the company we kind of work with, they have some tracking performance metrics that help. But I'm like, hey, I want to know to the T in detail what's going on. So if you're just sitting there, I need you training on certain videos or reviewing or sending gap extensions and stuff like that. But to me, it's really about setting expectations, setting them up for success with good videos on how to perform it correctly. Because a lot of people just get a VA and say, hey, handle this stuff. When I'm like, dude, you got no real training to push forward. But to kind of summarize it all, I guess, separate the difference between project and current, like day-to-day ops, and then end-of-day report. Make sure you're using Slack for communication, and then you get to know them pretty well. When you have your meetings, don't just push them on projects that you have. Get to know them, ask about their dreams and goals, because you have to understand some people might want extra money. Some people want time off. Some people just want to hear an attaboy. Hey, like, John, you're doing a great job. Like, I appreciate you being here. And that elevates the team. So anything we can do to kind of really connect the team, we're going to push for that.
Man, you are super tactical, which we love. And it's just like, I mean, it makes these conversations fun, but also I think for people listening, and even just me talking to you, like getting to know you more, it explains why you're successful. Like so many people, they just stay super fluffy or high level, and like that means they don't even know why or what they're doing or how they should be doing it. But clearly, like you've been in the weeds on this stuff and keep thinking it through. As far as the tracking of activity, again, we've had people on the show do many different things. Is the end of day report they send you the main way that you guys track to dos in the company, or is that on Slack, or do you use a task manager, project manager? Like, how do you, make sure stuff is getting done? I guess is an easier way to say it.
Yeah, on a larger scale, like let's call it like a property onboard, we use Asana. So that has its own checklist, who's responsible. As soon as someone's done, the next person gets notified. If it's at a smaller level, maybe like a maintenance task, we not only have a maintenance log, but if an item, let's say, gets ordered or the VA orders something, that receipt automatically goes to our admin um, email, which Kelsey monitors. So she knows what house it was for. And the VAs are also putting that in the maintenance task in Slack. So they kind of have to post it in a few spots in Slack, in the maintenance log, and then it's probably gotten an email that Kelsey can see. Because anything we can automate, that's great. I do know the VAs, I mean, as you know, there's probably 80% proficient. I mean, there's going to be some gap where like, hey, you caught something or they didn't say something quite correctly. So I like the idea that they're using an email and a card that's automatically monitored. And we debated swapping to like Breezeway or something for maintenance tickets, but we haven't gone that route just yet. But ultimately, that's a thing we're working through right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just really tactical. The next thing is, you mentioned it, and something that's literally, I was talking to my buddy about this on Slack before this, is meeting structure. So right now with my business, the bookkeeping business and the real estate stuff, I'm trying to make sure that people are up on what's going on, but also don't need to be involved in stuff that they don't need to be involved in and waste time on that. So like
Right.
where we settled is, for now, what we're going to do is do one business unit call with the bookkeepers on Monday, and then we'll do an STR call Monday, and then my ops manager is going to run those one-on-ones. I'm going to meet with her after, and then Fridays we're going to do a company meeting to review the week and close stuff out. Curious how you do it, and even if you had any feedback for me, I'm all ears. No right or wrong way, but we've all played around with a lot of different stuff. So yeah, curious
Yeah.
how you do it, and if you have any feedback, maybe how I would do it or someone else listening would do it.
Sure. I like how you stack your meetings on one day. I think people fail to time block their times and their days because you don't want to have a meeting and then a 2 hour gap and then something important later because now you're kind of juggled in the head, right? So what we've been doing is I meet with Kelsey and Beth once a week for maybe 2 hours. Kelsey is going to be playing defense for me. I shouldn't hear about any of the normal maintenance, day-to-day stuff. If it's a larger issue or something, she needs to feel confident this is a safe space for her to come in and get an opinion from me about it. We do have a company-wide meeting every month, though. That's just to go over, hey, this is our company vision, company goals. They're supposed to come with certain metrics. So I want to give ownership to each person. So like the VAs, it might be simple. It could be like, hey, come to me each month with how many 5 stars we got on these properties. We got 55 stars, 6 4 stars, whatever. So maybe that's their one ownership task that they have to go over. Kelsey's going to be a little bit more high level, obviously. She might be, hey, how many maintenance things did we go over? Or I'm trying to think of a few other things that could go wrong, but maybe just like income-based stuff of like this time last year, we brought in a gross 60,000 on gross commissions, but we're up 20% year over year. So you're tracking like a scorecard ticket on each year on each property. So making sure you're collecting those throughout the year or the month. But yeah, normally it's just a weekly and a monthly meeting. I don't really need to engage with the VAs that much. I still want to have some relationship with them, and so they know like what's going on in our vision. But ultimately, I'm really relying on Kelsey to train them, get them up to speed, and then we can just push vision on my end.
Do you ever worry about like being disconnected from the frontline people? It's something that I think about, in my stuff too, is like if the VAs are reporting to an ops manager and I'm not really communicating with them, like will they have, I guess I worry if they'll have like loyalty to me or the company, or like, feel disconnected in that sense. But then I also tell myself that like Jeff Bezos isn't meeting with like, everyone that is in the company. But I don't know. Do you ever think about that, or I don't know, think about stuff maybe like culturally, or just staying connected to everyone?
I would say two things. A, you're right. I think at a certain point you're going to be just so big, but I mean, we got a couple employees. It's not like I'm freaking Jeff Bezos. So I want to take that approach. I'm not all high and mighty, right? So there's a level of like, hey, don't get your shoes too big, right? But with that said, I want to make sure I put them first when I do meet with them. So I don't start out the meeting saying, hey, John, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Here's the goals. Like, I need you locked in. It's, hey, John, how you feeling? And then I have a few things I want to go over, but what do you have for me? And then so they're going to be like, oh, wow, like he's letting me lead. He's letting me get the things off my chest that I need to get off. And just making sure you're making that impact when you do have time with them. So, because I'm sure you've met people, I don't know, last year you might have only seen them twice or three times, but you still like, hey, that's a good guy, someone I enjoy being around. It doesn't need to be everyday communication. It's just, what do you think of when you think of John? What do you think of when you think of Luke? And if they have a positive image of that, which is maybe you're giving incentives. Hey, Kelsey told me you did this great job or this great thing. I'm going to reward that. Here's your $1,000 bonus. Like, be the person that gives the bonuses too. Like, I'm a firm believer of incentivizing and getting to know them on a personal level. I know some people go as far as doing that with their co-host and saying, hey, we're going to have 2 meetings or 2 events if they're in the same area. And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to co-host your property. So it's stuff like that. I just think building relationship and incentivizing, making sure you're putting them first and leading with a plan, I think helps out.
I love that. Just before we move off the VAs and this part of ops, you mentioned incentives and bonuses. I kind of forgot to actually ask about it earlier, but is there anything that you've done or seen make an impact for your business as far as either like creative incentives that have alignment of interest or some surprise incentives or just things that, push the buttons in a good way of people on your team?
It's something we're pushing now. Obviously, it's not I wish I had a more tactical answer for you, but right now they know they're getting some type of Christmas bonus. If I've heard of other people, hey, if you get X amount of all 5 stars or response time is kept between a certain average. We don't do any of that right now, which we probably should, but to me, Guesty is the only PMS software that tracks response times that I'm aware of. So I'm hoping to get some type of real tracking there that we can incentivize that way. But we don't do anything real pushy that way. It's more kind of one-off stuff, or if they went above and beyond and did something.
That's really interesting about Guesty. I didn't know
Yeah.
that I don't think Hospitable does it. Like, you'd have to manually track the time, but Guesty actually says, or it has response time as like a metric.
And it's even better. It's per user too. So if a different VA logs in, it's A1. But once again, they're the most expensive. But I was like, it's stuff like that that kind of legs them up. Like those 1% add up. And I was like, I want those metrics. So not that we're going to switch because it's way more expensive, but I might talk to my Hostaway rep and be like, hey, what are we going to do to get this in there?
Dang, that's awesome. That is such a smart tool because it's like in management, it's so hard to quantify certain metrics. Like we try to. I've done response times, I've done 5-star reviews, you know, like I've done rev shares, but it's hard when the task of tracking things is as hard as like doing the job and it takes
Oh,
the
yeah.
person away from it. So it's like, is then my ops manager gonna have to do 5 hours a week of like tracking stuff to then make sure the incentives are good when maybe they're just doing a great job anyway. We don't need to so it's like, but that's really interesting if it does it for you or it could just make your life easier. So that's really cool. I never heard that. Moving to the owner communication side, so we've been talking more like internal to the business, getting leads, then how you kind of work through internal stuff in the company. How do you make sure that, well, we'll get to communication, but I'll kick it off with a high level question. How do you make sure that the owners you work with are happy, they like you, they want to stay with you?
Yeah. So I think most importantly, performance in my mind is like tier 1. If you're doing a good job, they're not going to leave you, especially if you can prove them and saying, hey, the other cats down the street are doing 80,000, you're doing 150. Like, just to let you know, like, it's like a slam dunk on them without having to like flex too hard. So make sure you're a good operator. That would be my number 1. Second, setting expectations. Every time we go in there, we say, hey, let's say you're a homeowner, John. At what point would you like to be notified of an issue? Is it a $200 issue? Is it a $500 issue? Is it $1,000? Everyone's going to have their own range. We have that documented for the VAs to see. If they go get an AC repair and it's over 300, you do not do that AC repair without checking with them. So now they know, hey, it's just going to be handled if it's under that, and they'll see it on the invoice at the end of each month. So expectations with stuff like that, awfully monthly reporting, and something we're kind of pushing more this year is don't only be the person that reaches out when you need something or when something's wrong. Like that like it blew my mind. It's like every time I'm calling them, they're probably like, dang, what's going on? If every time it's bad, like you have to swap it up, right? So it's like, hey, Alvo or whatever your name is, it's like just checking in. How's everything? Is their team doing good? Like, has Kelsey reached out? Have you been getting your monthly reports? Okay, everything's good. Anything else we can do? No? Okay, perfect. So expectations, communication, and good performance.
Dude, you should have your own podcast, like, or a YouTube channel if you don't already. I see you on Facebook all the time, and we talk there, but just
Right.
super tactical and just like effective. One specific question within that, and something that I think about a lot now too. I've never run an agency business, and I kind of look at co-hosting like an agency business. You have clients, you perform a service for
Sure.
them, they give you money on a recurring basis. I think about communication a lot on the bookkeeping side of like, I want to give a white glove experience, but also I don't want to make myself operationally crazy, or if the percentage doesn't align, like as far as, the client is 1% happier, but our ops are 20% harder now. And I think about communication a lot of like some bookkeepers or accountants, they put all their clients on the Slack, in Slack, and they can talk that way. Some email, some have regular scheduled calls. I love what you said about performance. Like if performance is good, they probably don't even need to talk or want to talk.
They could
Like,
care less.
so have you thought through anything on that as far as like, okay, we send out a monthly email owners report, or if a client needs to get in touch with me, we can do a call, or I don't do calls because it's like I'm not connected and someone else on my team should be customer facing and client facing if it's, Kelsey or Beth. Like, how do you think about that communication specifically with clients?
Yeah, to me, it goes back to expectations. It very clearly, after they've been done onboarding, I say, hey, if you have a reservation problem, that's a VA. Here's the Kolk support number. Like, you can get a faster response and better response from them there in your day-to-day. If it's a financial question or something, like you got some grand idea you want to pass by, that's Kelsey. She implements, she can talk to the VAs for you. And because I'm still doing pricing, if they have a pricing issue, they can come to me. Each of which we have a calendar link, book a time on our call or on our calendar, you can go here. And then that's on the welcome email on onboarding. So there's no who's who, because the last thing you want is a maintenance issue goes and now you have 10 people working on a maintenance issue because you texted one, you called the other, and the VAs are handling it on the back end. Like, I hate that. Like, now we're spending 10 grand a day to have all these people work on a stupid issue. It's like negative. Go to the right channel and everything's going to be all right.
I love that expectation. So based on that now, how do you think about what's the best use of your time? Going into 2025, Luke wakes up every day. Well, first off, is Monday through Friday, you do the same activities on each day personally, or do you look at each day differently? Or how do you think about what you need to do day to day to move the needle forward and be effective and make sure the business is good?
Yeah, to me, it's sales, vision, and then you could say systems, and just you could tie vision and systems together. Obviously, I'm the only sales guy, so I'll probably do, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours a week of just sales, which are people I've connected with on Facebook. I do a lot of my outreach in the morning, and then I set meetings for the afternoon or evening. But if I'm not doing that, it's on some of these other side projects. Like I still coach for B&B Formula. Co-host Connect is still having some troubles there with, let's call it, finding more leads. So obviously I'm working some hours on that. And then lastly, making sure I'm not fully disconnected from our main business, Kolk Homes. I want to make sure those systems are dialed in. And if I hear about problems and they need advice, I'm doing that. But that might be a couple hours a week. So all in all, I work probably 15, 20 hours a week. Other than that, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, working out, and having a good time. I think people, they think they just need to bite down on their mouthpiece and work harder. But I'm like, you're just not efficient. Like, some people just slay their dragons in less time. So it's like, don't be the guy I need to wake up at 3 in the morning. Like, it's like, are you actually moving the needle forward? And yes, there is a time and place to dig in, but I'm also like, I just read the Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell, all those things. I'm like, he spends an hour in the hot tub each day. I'm like, and he's multimillionaire. It's like, that doesn't mean, yes, he's earned his stripes, but I'm also like, dude, they are more efficient, they have better people, and they just do things right. So to me, I don't want to have to max out my mental capacity with something small when I should be thinking on vision. And me just sitting on the couch, while it might be not working, I'm always thinking. And I'm getting a vision, I'm getting an idea that I can implement. And sure, maybe 10 of them are all sucky, but that 11th one might land, and that actually makes us more money and moves the needle.
I love it, man. How do you think about 2025? What are you going to be focusing on more of, or doing? Well, I'd say, what are you going to be doing more of? What are you going to be doing less of? And putting your time towards things.
So I think we're going to organically grow to about 100 co-hosts. That's kind of a sweet spot. Not that that really means much. It's more of an income goal. Like, end all be all, if we can make 500K a year net to like my personal bottom line, working 5 hours a week. That's the goal. If I can, like, if I'm ever working more than 5, I should probably delegate someone else or get something in place, which might seem lazy, but I'm just like, I think it's efficient. So growing Kolk homes to about 100 homes and or that income amount. Secondly, I have a big decision to make with B&B Format if I'm going to continue with them. They're launching a couple new products. If I want to help out with that and build out that program for them. Co-host Connect, that's kind of a side project now. If that ends up blowing up, that might actually take most of my focus if it can scale, because it's the most scalable of the 3 that I'm doing. But that's kind of a hit or miss. And besides that, I really want to plan out our trips and everything like that. Are you familiar with Jesse Itzler by chance?
Big calendar, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could turn my camera around. We got the big ass calendar there, and I'm like, 2024 for us was very reactive. And I'm like, I don't want to be the person that just gets tugged around and not grounded. It's like negative. Plan your vacations, plan the business events, plan your growth, and then just stick to the script. It's not that hard. But I think too many people can only think about the now, the immediate problem, the immediate financial issue, the immediate lack of contacts. So in summer 2025, build out our trips, 100 homes, and see how Co-host Connect and B&B Formula goes.
I freaking love it, man. What's the best way? Actually, before we talk about like that, if people are listening to this and they're like, man, Luke, super tactical, experience building teams, experience with VAs, guy's gone from 0 to X in short periods of time, used to be a cop, badass, got a lot going on, jujitsu. I want to work with this guy. I think this guy can help me. I think this guy, talk about how you work with people, like what they can expect from you, or just working with you, but also outcomes if they're like, I got to get around this guy.
Yeah, my favorite line is I got a guy for that. So if you have a problem with STR, you can find me at on Facebook, just Luke Kolk, or find us on Instagram, Kolk Homes, Kolk Homes. And I can probably direct you to the resource that you need, whether that's education, is that a VA, is that a bookkeeper, revenue management, is that you just need advice on how to scale. I have people for each of those, and they're very qualified. If I can't give you the answer, I know someone who can. So to me, it doesn't have to be any one specific thing. I have an answer for just about anything, and it's more than likely going to be sending you to another person that's qualified. Maybe you need business funding. So to me, the network is what I love, and I think that's where my growth has come from. I literally try and connect with as many people as I can, because if they have something in the niche, or like I found this guy the other day, he can guarantee 100K in business credit, 0%. We're like, all right, I'll test it out. If it works out, great. Did it within 40 days, you got $172,000, 0% business credit. So I'm like, okay, I can put my stamp of approval on it. Now if someone comes to me, I can pass it off. So all in all, you can find me Instagram, Facebook, and I'll help you out. Let's do it.
Epic. I could just personally vouch for Luke. Just seeing what he's done, talking to him, being on different communities together, like just get stuff done. Obviously for himself, but also for other people, and just super knowledgeable across the industry. So definitely recommend that. Luke, we'll link everything below: Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, I mean that's easy for people to find you, and you're active on those, so probably the best ways. Before we log out, anything you want to just say? Closing word before we get you out of here?
No, I just say I appreciate you having me on, and I always try and say to people, hey, it's probably not an information problem, it's an execution problem. Get out there, get after it, and understand it's a volume game. If you're trying to get co-host, arbitrage, build your network, it's getting out there and doing the thing, because sometimes the work just needs doing. So I appreciate it.
You're the man. Luke, thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.